After 5 months of constant arguments and feeling unappreciated, I finally broke up. Sacrificing my peace became unbearable. I deeply care for my girlfriend, and I hope someone can understand my feelings. We have been in a relationship since October 2023. To provide some context, I have come to see that I am a 23-year-old male involved with a narcissistic 23-year-old female. She consistently prioritizes her own emotions and feelings, while I am the one who makes the majority of the effort to see her because we are in a medium-distance relationship. I am working towards a future with her, yet it appears that she makes minimal effort concerning my emotions and time. What I want to communicate to her is that I ended our relationship today after yet another meaningless argument. She constantly nitpicks at minor things daily, and it feels as though I can never meet her expectations. I would appreciate some guidance on how to refine this message. I want to convey that this is my final limit. Given her narcissistic traits, she might not be concerned, but there is a possibility that the good aspects of her character will come to light. Please take the time to read every word of this carefully. I offer you all that I possess for your tranquility, comfort, feelings, and sense of safety. In doing so, however, I have lost respect for myself. You have consistently shown me disrespect, time after time. It is difficult because I still desire you intensely. I crave your love so desperately that it makes me feel ill not to have it. You have no concept of peace. There has been no tranquility for such a long time. Yet here I am, in tears, wishing you could simply provide me with some peace. I yearn for a normal, healthy relationship, basic respect for my emotions and time. Why have I not received that? How have I allowed you to treat me in this manner repeatedly until it felt normal? I feel terrible. The more kindness I show, the worse things seem to become. How long will it take for you to cease inflicting pain through unnecessary arguments? You hold resentment against me for not providing you with a gift on Valentine's Day when we could not even meet, even though I had already given you gifts prior to Valentine's. Just yesterday, I wrote you 14 letters. Since it was February 14, I wrote 14 reasons why I love you, intending to create something special for you. Since last night, issues have arisen that should have remained unaddressed, and it just hurts. It hurts immensely. How can you be angry at me for that? It feels so unjust. Here I am composing love letters to compensate for our inability to meet on Valentine's Day, for when we meet next week, or for not having more conversation on the day because I went out for dinner with a male friend since we couldn't meet. I should not be made to feel guilty about that in the first place, yet on top of it all, I am being treated poorly. For what reason? She claimed that I did not select the gifts before Valentine's because I was asking her sisters for recommendations since she is very particular, and her sisters informed her. By the way, I did obtain a few items for her prior to Valentine's, so on the day itself, since we couldn't meet, I thought it wise to get her additional gifts. I continuously sacrifice my emotions and peace for you. You cannot even allow us 24 hours of calm before raising an issue. The most frustrating part? There is no equilibrium. I put in great effort. I allow myself to be vulnerable and you overwhelm me, always upset with me. And I simply yield. I am aware you are reading this and thinking that I do not see things from your perspective, your feelings, your situation, but I always do. Sure, you do things for me, but please tell me, what do these ongoing, trivial arguments serve? I'm calling them arguments, not you expressing your feelings. Because if you truly intended to express, I could provide comfort. The issue is that you never accept my reassurance in a healthy way. You consistently make me feel inferior. Every single time. There is no way to atone for it. I'm sorry for asking for a sliver of attention on Valentine's Day, when I am genuinely communicating with you as much as I can manage outside of dinner and my classes. You never accept my initial apology. Instead, I find myself repeatedly apologizing. You constantly make me pursue your affection and forgiveness. It is exhausting. I should not feel as though I am making significant mistakes all the time, because in reality, they are not that serious. Occasionally, I might forget something trivial, such as what you had for dinner yesterday, and you become upset, claiming I am not paying attention. If you assert that it is not significant, then please cease treating it as such. If you believe you do not, you do. It is in your tone. If it were trivial, you would not say the things you do. I purchased you a handbag, a top, journaling accessories, lipsticks, and a Sanrio mystery box. I wrote you 14 cards. All of this reflects consideration, thoughtfulness, love, and everything positive in between. It took me 15 hours of shopping to gather these items that you would appreciate. I honestly spent that long because on one occasion, I got you a custom ring in our favorite colors, and you claimed you despised it. That was a promise ring, by the way, so I have become apprehensive about buying you things you may not like. And what do I receive in return? You should have acquired these items before Valentine's, when the only things I obtained after were the mystery box and the top. It is utterly inconsiderate to hear that. It is frankly disrespectful. You listened to your sisters and became upset at me without even inquiring if I might have acquired some items beforehand or on schedule. That is not equitable treatment. I am not suggesting that I am managing everything flawlessly, but what am I genuinely gaining from this? Over the past 5 months, we have scarcely experienced a good week together. Every day brings new challenges. You do not notice the things I do for you. If you did, you would have taken appropriate measures, argued less with me, ceased being petty and unresponsive, stopped throwing insignificant matters in my face, and if I make an error, you would not make me feel like I am a bad person for it, as it is simply an innocent mistake. I understand I can improve, and I have been. I have been less sensitive, I engage with you more, and I give you as much as I can despite the distance. I actively seek opportunities to watch shows together, I compliment you nearly every day, and I provide you with my utmost dedication. I consider you wherever possible, striving to be with you as much as I can, focused on building a future with you by excelling in my studies, my job, my projects, and making sacrifices not because you are a burden but because I love you. While this benefits me, ultimately it centers on you. I am not constantly bringing up what you did wrong today, number 7331. And it frustrates me that I must articulate all of this for you to comprehend. Since your graduation, which has coincided with our medium-distance situation, I have exerted so much effort to ensure your happiness. I talk to you despite my academic responsibilities, my projects, my family, and my social life not because I find you burdensome, but because I love you. I obtained my driver's license and a car solely to have the chance to see you more frequently. In the summertime, I would drive 3 hours round trip to see you for just 1 hour during your lunch break. I buy you gifts, have written countless letters, consistently pay for you, and always listen to you when you are upset or irritated. I have done everything possible hoping to lay the groundwork for a future with you. Yes, you make efforts as well. You dedicate time to prepare for our meetings, you deceive your parents so that we can be together as they are very controlling, and you sacrifice time with your sister to see me. I genuinely appreciate that. I really do. However, in light of our circumstances, that is the bare minimum. I should not feel as though I do not acknowledge your perspective. I do. I am thankful for everything you do. However, I do not constantly express grievances to you. I have things that trouble me too, but I do not discuss them every day because it is exhausting. I recall when I did bring up a couple of issues for several consecutive days you said to me, "Hamza, this is enough. I feel like I am not good enough for you." I was a bit overly sensitive in that moment. Acknowledging this, I understood. I recognized my irrationality and ceased. So why can you not do the same? Can you see that I did not say, "You are not allowing me to express myself"? It is not rational to dwell on small matters daily for your peace of mind or mine. Even if something bothers you, it should not carry on for more than a few minutes, particularly if it is as minor as my not responding to your story when I just gave you a compliment hours earlier. If we do discuss it, which is acceptable, I am not opposed to that like a girl wanting reassurance. I understand that, but it often feels different. It becomes draining when you do not accept my reassurance or apology. It brings no sense of peace. You likely do not intend this. Perhaps it is just how you are, but you must learn to let the small things go for the sake of tranquility or address them in a respectful manner. And whenever I attempt to voice my thoughts, instead of listening, you shift the focus to yourself. And do not claim I do not consider your perspective, because I always do. However, at some point, rationality must come into play. I listen to your concerns for significantly longer than necessary, without any conditions attached. I would appreciate the same consideration in return. That is how a relationship can be peaceful. And while my approach to your comfort may not be perfect, at the very least, I have been listening, allowing you the time to speak, and striving to understand you. I should not have to feel pressured to my breaking point or be disrespected for me to cease comforting you. This is not a competition. Why am I rarely afforded the opportunity to be heard, to receive reassurance, and to be understood? Additionally, it feels as though you often turn the situation back to you. You respond with the things I may have done that upset you instead of genuinely comforting me, which makes it seem like you do not even attempt to console me. You only want to express your side. So, although the morning's discussion may have begun focused on me, it ultimately became about you and your feelings. I hardly get a moment to myself. Furthermore, you become exceptionally disrespectful when you say, "Go ahead and have your moment, I'm nothing." That is incredibly manipulative. How can you make me feel guilty for wanting a moment I know I deserve, yet I only receive a few minutes, and when you inquire about my feelings? I do not understand why asking you to remind me that I am a good boyfriend is a negative request. I realize you have reminded me, but that comes after you insult me or elevate minor matters. I would genuinely feel like a good boyfriend if I were frequently reminded of it in a spontaneous and natural manner. If you believe you did not have your moment last night, I am utterly worn out and have had enough. It is simply unfair to expect me to view these as significant issues, because in that case, you should not even be with me. If you genuinely wish to continue this relationship, begin acting maturely, gain control over your emotions, stop expressing your frustrations toward me, take initiative, and recognize the need for change. I approach this relationship with maturity, I manage my emotions, and I do not raise concerns with you each day. Please extend me the same respect and treatment. I am asking for equal treatment. Please do not dismiss my feelings. Do not compare my issues with this, as these matters ought not to arise for the sake of your partner's peace. I understand that I can be forgetful, that I may not excel in communication or listening. These are simply small human errors that both you and I make. Yes, I may be worse at it, and I promise to improve. Despite everything, I recognize and appreciate the good you have done for me, including the thoughtful gifts you have provided, the times you have listened to me, the moments you have shown understanding and offered reassurance. Those instances genuinely brought me such happiness. I am grateful for the times you have made an effort to see me, invited me into your home, and taken the time to engage with my family. At this juncture, I have come to realize it is unlikely we will maintain this dynamic moving forward. This is not an issue of compatibility. Rather, our relationship has been largely one-sided for some time. It pains me deeply to think that I may have to part ways with you for both our happiness. This is heart-wrenching, and I do not believe I will easily overcome this. I sincerely wish you the best. Story 2. I quit my job after my manager bullied me for going home to grieve my grandpa. My proof got him fired. He's still unemployed. Mandatory statement. English is not my first language, and I apologize for any mistakes in grammar. This event took place around 2016. At that time, I was 25 or 26 years old and had been unemployed for a while, actively seeking a job that paid better than my previous one. I eventually found a position at a security camera company that was hiring for the help desk. I attended an interview and received a call back later that day. If I was interested in the position, it was mine. My new manager had a military background, specifically as an ex-soldier, not American, just to clarify. He had a strong aversion to anyone who disagreed with him or opposed his directives, a fact I was completely unaware of when I accepted the job. For 2 to 3 months, everything was going smoothly. The manager was friendly and seemed happy to have me on board. I dedicated myself fully to my work, as I was unfamiliar with the software we were using. I studied diligently and even traveled overseas to take a course, successfully passing my exams. However, after that period, my grandfather, who was like a second father to me, was suddenly hospitalized due to a brain hemorrhage, possibly an aneurysm. He was discovered in the shower after collapsing when he pressed his emergency button, assisted living, perhaps. I'm unsure of the exact term in English and I apologize. This occurred on a Wednesday. My family gathered multiple times at the hospital to show our support for my grandfather. However, on Friday afternoon at 3 p.m., I received a phone call from my father, my grandfather's son, while I was at work, informing me that my grandfather had sadly passed away. I was devastated and in disbelief. It took me a moment to regain my composure. I approached my manager to explain the situation and let him know that I would be going home to be with my family. Unfortunately, there was a company event scheduled for that day. The organization was holding a charity function that was set to be publicly announced. The number of participants had already been declared, and it would reflect poorly on them if they were short-staffed. Ultimately, it was merely for public relations. He refused to let me leave. I reminded him that, according to the law, he could not deny me time off for a family death, and that I was leaving immediately. This was the pivotal moment. He transformed from a pleasant manager to an intolerable one. Suddenly, everything I did was met with criticism. He expressed disbelief that I had been in this line of work for 6 years, but managed to perform so poorly, cursing me and belittling me in front of my coworkers and even clients. This behavior persisted for several months and severely impacted my mental health. I spoke with my parents and my fiancé, who was still my girlfriend at the time. I proposed in December 2016, and they told me that this treatment was unacceptable, that I did not have to endure it, and that I should submit my 2 weeks' notice. I concurred. The next day, I visited Human Resources and detailed my reasons for leaving the company, stating that I could not tolerate working even one more day under such circumstances. Human Resources expressed concern for my well-being and, more importantly, took my claims regarding my manager seriously. They had received other complaints about him, but no one had evidence to substantiate those claims. Thus, they inquired if I had any proof. I informed them that I would be searching for a new job, but would happily dedicate time to gather whatever evidence I could. For the next 2 weeks, I compiled everything: memos, emails, voice recordings. Calls were automatically recorded, and the fool was careless enough to curse me during one of my calls. How fortunate for me. Additionally, I was fortunate that my colleagues at the help desk supported me throughout this ordeal. They encouraged me, reassured me that I was doing quality work, and shared their confusion regarding my manager's behavior. Therefore, when I approached them for signatures to validate my claims, they willingly complied. On my final day, I had one last meeting with Human Resources and my manager simultaneously. Before he entered the room, I told the HR representative, "He will walk in, say what he needs to say, and I will stay silent and listen. When he finishes, I will present my side, and he will interrupt me, claim I am lying, and steer the conversation toward unrelated topics to divert attention." She appeared surprised by my prediction, but had no opportunity to respond before the military man entered and launched into his monologue. Just as I predicted, he rattled off his perspective, and whenever I attempted to speak, he persistently interrupted me and provoked arguments. Eventually, I stood up and told Human Resources, "I told you so. Here are the documents you've requested." I placed a filled folder containing dozens of emails, numerous memos, and a USB drive with 3 recorded phone conversations, along with video footage of him yelling at me, which clearly captured him using foul language. I gave my manager a bright smile, who was smirking smugly, and said to him, "I doubt you'll be smirking for much longer. Enjoy your fleeting victory." His grin faded into a bewildered frown as I closed the door behind me, feeling an immense weight lifted from my shoulders. Within a month, I was back to my normal self. 2 months later, I began a new job and, out of curiosity, checked my former manager's LinkedIn profile. Unemployed. I called a former colleague to inquire about what transpired. The evidence I provided had opened a can of worms. He had been disrespectful to female staff, insulted older employees, and had been less than cordial with external hires on multiple occasions. None of these complaints were addressed, as it had been his word against theirs, and there was no proof. However, my overwhelming evidence of his misconduct towards me validated all previous complaints against him. He was promptly terminated less than a month after my departure, and they refused to give him any form of reference. In a field like his, references are crucial. Thus, not receiving one from a company where he had worked for nearly a year is a significant red flag. It is now 2020, 4 years later, and according to LinkedIn, he is still not working in his field. I must admit that I felt a sense of wicked satisfaction, and I still do whenever I think about it. Summary: my manager started to bully me after I left work to be with my family following my grandfather's death, and ultimately forced me to resign for my mental health. I gathered substantial proof of his misconduct, which led to his termination, making it difficult for him to find another job in his field.